And welcome for the first pull of the round 7 of Adelaide Super League 15. My name is Phil Shields. I'm joined in the commentary position by
Ben Foley. Thanks for having me, Phil.
No worries. Thanks for being had. Just a little joke. So you're not playing this game. How's it feel to watch and commentate the rivals?
This is my first chance on the mic I've had this season, but I've been sure to watch a lot of games to make sure what my competition is, as Sean Lace throws up a beauty but a bit long for Lockie Eichner.
Yeah, not reading the length of the field on that first one. It was a really good look, though, and a good play, I think. Tells a story there that Riptide are willing to come out fighting from the very start for this game anyway.
We're going to see that a lot as well, the Lace or Baddocks to Lockie connection. Lockie loves to cut and does a good job of it.
No, we haven't seen Andy Baddocks for a while, so we'll see if he's still got his form or whether he needs to ease into it. And at the moment, talk us a bit about the table, the ladder at the moment. What's happening there?
Yeah, this is... As it stands, we're poised for the most exciting finish of Super League for a long time. We have 4 teams, each have played 6 games, and they're all standing on 3 wins and 3 losses. So these 2 teams have played previously to us, and both times Blue has been the victor, but Red is currently sitting on a 2-game win streak while Blue lost last week. So, it's up for grabs. We also see a very strong Red team tonight. They've got their full starting 11. While Blue are supposed to have 9 here, but currently only have 7. So at the moment running Savage, but hopefully a couple more players will come in.
Yeah, we'll see if Riptide have the legs. We can see on the sideline here 4 subs, which is really nice for them. But I can't see any Blue subs, as you just said. They're playing Savage.
So the big one goes up. Johnny's got position. He boxes it Wilson out excellently and gets the D.
Yeah, it was a nice body there. Remember, it is a non-contact sport, and the teams will dictate as to how much body contact they will allow on the field. But that was nice use of the body by Warren White then, just to make sure that he had the play on the disc and no one else.
That's the veteran coach showing the youngster how to make sure you win those aerial battles, even if you can't necessarily out-hop your opponent. And there's another big one. This is our 3rd big shot already. Still in the first point. Sang reads it nicely and somehow, yes.
Was that 5 or 6? I don't know.
Oof, it was a lot of touches.
It was a lot. Let's have a look at that on replay. I'm sure we'll come back up in a moment. But a nice look by Alfie Edgeworth.
It's beautiful shot. Alfie's having a great season so far. He would have played on the weekend as well in Melbourne, so we'll see. That's going to be another factor that probably maybe a dozen of the boys that play tonight, either in this game or later on, have all played on the weekend in Melbourne.
Let's see that again. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just the 4.
4, maybe 4.5. Just for good luck. Shaky start for Riptide, but a good start nonetheless.
Yep, still putting their offensive point away, even if it took them 2 attempts.
Yeah, so the first look not coming off, the second one coming off just, but it did come off.
Both great cuts, and in Alfie's case at least, both are great throws, just Sean's a bit long. I guess they're just kind of getting their eye and having a few shots on goal early to size up the goals and work out where it is. And not that it changes from week to week, but, just make sure everyone's calibrated correctly.
Absolutely. Titans looking for their first response.
So like I said, every team on 3 wins and 3 losses at the moment. There's 3 more games to play, so you'll have to win at least 2 of the next 3 if you want to win it, maybe all 3 of them. And then after, if it's a tie for wins, losses, it'll go in the goal difference between the teams tied in the first instance. So even the goal difference now will make a big difference. It could, like I said, Blue were victors against Westside the last 2 attempts, but if Westside had a commanding lead tonight, maybe that'll swing the balance in their favour.
At the moment, Kaon not being used as their traditional handler. Here he comes. I might show a bit of action now. Scott Swart gives it to Canless. Back to Kaon. Here's that look I was after before. Ramadan with legs.
Oofed.
Not quite. Thought he might lay out there for a second, but thinking better of it. We haven't had much rain here. Turf is a little bit on the hard side. No wind to speak of at the moment, but Ramadan, I think, needs a captain's game here.
Ramadan is a fit man, and he's been playing the season of his career probably. But he did, like I said, just play in Melbourne on the weekend, and it could be that last little spring in his step is not quite there, or hopefully we'll see a bit more spring as the game progresses.
Did you partake in that Melbourne foray at all yourself, or just to hear some stories?
No, I had nothing to do with the weekend, but I heard that the Adelaide team that went over did quite well for themselves, finishing second just to a top Melbourne Hoss team.
Well, that is a good result indeed for Adelaide.
Close back up on him, Scotty.
Baddox with a big swing out wide to Warren White. Edgeworth again. Eichner wants something long, but that's not coming. Scotty Swart, prime position out the back. Yeah, and he takes it nicely. There's a call there. I didn't see much in that from my angle, but I wasn't in the contest and I didn't feel anything.
No, I think Alfie's holding his head, so that would indicate he felt something.
Now, definitely Swart came over the top. He did position himself coming around the back. It looked clean from my first view. Let's see if we've got a replay for us at the moment. Here it comes. So there's Baddox. He's looking for the wind-up. There it goes. We've got Eichner in front. We've got Edgeworth at back. You can see Scotty Swart coming over the back. And I think Edgeworth actually tilted his head back into Swart. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you're going to call those ones, there's going to be a lot of calls this game.
Yeah.
But that's their prerogative. Like you said earlier, the players can dictate the level of contact they think is agreeable for them. It just needs to be consistent. So if those are the calls Alfie's happy to make, and then he's going to have to listen when Scott or someone else makes them back at him.
And of course, sometimes when you're in the throw of things, you're not too sure of your own body position. You think you might have had great body position, but you may not have. This one, is Edgeworth going to call? This one, no, he's not. He did get ridden into the ground for that one by Swart. That time might have been worth a call, but they'll all even out in the end, I think.
Oh, Riptide are on the doorstep here. Baddox dictating the play from behind. That was Sean Lace the last few weeks while Baddox has been away, but you can see him working hard in the midfield.
Baddox wants something, passes it back to Narayan. They've lost about 5 to 10 metres. Now they're coming back into the red zone play. Not a lot of cuts happening. Has to go around to Edgeworth. Will he get his second assist of the game? It looks like he might.
That's beautiful arounds. 2 beautiful arounds from Southside to put away their second point of the night.
Yeah, break side scoring. Perfect.
It's been something that's really come into the game in Adelaide recently, is the around breaks. Something that we've had to work hard over the last few years, and it's paying dividends right there as Alfie throws that beautiful around to Johnny.
Yeah, and that looks like Ty on his heels. I thought Ty was maybe a bit slow to get to the break side, just trailing. Maybe Warren White having prime position in front and botting him out as well.
Southside now with one of their subs having landed. I think they're expecting to have 9 here tonight, so there should be another one coming. But it's the early time slot and people are coming from work. You can't always make game on.
No, and after those 2 initial assists, Edgeworth has earned himself a break on the sideline as he comes off.
We should be joined soon by Sean Baker, the owner of Peak Conditioning Coaching, who is sponsoring this Super League, one of our 3 sponsors, along with ulti.TV and Double Happiness Ultimate Apparel. So hopefully he can give us some insights into maybe the biomechanics of how the ultimate frisbee player works on the field. Get a look at how we can optimise our jumps and runs and not get injured.
I'm very interested to hear his thoughts about Ultimate when he sees it in action, probably for the first time. Might have seen it on YouTube or on TV. We have a 4-legged friend just being carted off of the field while we wait for this pool. We've got a few 4-legged friends joined with us in this commentary position as well, just making themselves known to us, saying hello as Ramadan fields this pool. Seen that initial pull transition before. Ramadan to Tran.
Bit of a different look not having Kaon start behind the frisbee, but there he gets there eventually. And this is where he likes to be. He's a great distributor of the disc. Talos and back to Kaon.
He's got 2 men on, which means someone's free. Smits is free. Ramadan in front of
Ramadan is always making himself free. Back to Kaon, to Rob, straight back into the middle. They're still quite tight on the side here.
Now, I think Baddox has got a bit of a loose mark there, letting Kaon get too much of this give-go disc at the moment. What are your thoughts?
I mean, Kaon's a hard man to stop. He knows the kind of space he wants to be in and how to get there. I mean, handlers in general are quite hard to stop. They're working in small space and they only need a step. And Kaon is a very experienced handler as he throws up. Maybe not the best look, but there's no real contest for that. And Talis puts it down nicely. Smits wants goal. Finds Ferdy, like as I said, Ferdy will always find space. And there's a call in the field.
Yep. So after a little discussion, play resumes with Ramadan.
A beautiful high release backhand break.
Tran in acres of space. How did he do that?
Tran has a quick first step, and you can watch the replay here. He takes off, and there's no. I mean, I don't even know who was marking him, to be honest. Maybe.
Looked like there might have been a switch there. Was that Baddox out the back? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it was quick anyway. But Tran has a quick step. He's working hard. He's been keeping really busy the last few seasons with a variety of ultimate, even throughout this COVID period. And of course, a lot of these men are halfway through an Australian National Championships campaign. The keen eye should by now be able to tell the difference between those that are doing the Game Point Performance Fitness program and those that are just coming out for these beautiful, balmy Monday night league games.
And it is a balmy night. It is a beautiful night, actually. We've got a bit of cloud cover, not too much sun. We've had a bit of sun in the last few weeks, and when that's gotten low, I have a feeling we've had a few more turnovers because of that. But these boys should be able to run out. As you say, we're in the middle of a season, and fitness training-wise, they should all be good to go as far as a full, hard game of Ultimate goes.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the Super League season is a chance for these men to put into practice the things that they're learning at training, and to actually find game fitness ready for when they go to Melbourne or elsewhere for the tournaments. And I mean, Super League is a very competitive season in sport, as we've seen this year with all four teams on 3 wins and 3 losses. It is a fast game. It's much faster than the State League or any of the socials or beach frisbee that everyone might be playing now in the summertime. You have to really work hard to beat your players. You see Sean Lace right there and work hard to beat White and Stent under. White and Stent being a very fast man. He's got the frisbee now and there's a cool down field, so he's waiting for everyone to reset. This comes back in. Lace with that easier round to Warren White, sorry. And Alfie with a drop. It was just a touch low and he couldn't quite work out his hands, I think. Ramadan is the captain and main man of this team, picking it up and throwing a beautiful to tie.
Yeah.
And that takes the break back and puts everyone 2 apiece.
So back on serve. So we love tight games. Look, if you are looking at this live stream, don't keep this information to yourself. Tell your friends, share it on socials. This is Monday Night Ultimate at its best. Brought to you first in the year, live here from Adelaide, South Australia. Thank you to ulti.TV.
My game tonight clashes with the Demon Newer Djokovic game in the Australian Open. But all the viewers at home have to make a decision. But they're both easily replayable. So I think my wife's gonna have a late night tonight as she tries to catch up with the tennis after watching me play.
Or when you get home, will you be watching it as well, maybe?
Oh, depending on how the game goes, I might just convince her to watch the game again.
Now, do you use these as a bit of a training? I don't know, what's the word I want? Like just to look back at how you performed, see what you can do better, see what you did well, anything like that?
There's been no formal use of the footage to date, but definitely a lot of individuals who are trying to look at different things in their game or where they got beaten in certain moments will go back and watch games. I mostly only re-watch my games if I felt like I played well or we had a good win. But there are moments where I'm like, how did that happen? Or why did that not work? Or like, yeah, all kinds of smaller details that, especially if you're in the middle of that national season, you really want to fine tune all the kind of strengths and gaps in your game. You might look back on this and think, where can I like get that 1%er that'll be the difference come nationals in April?
Now, speaking of 1%, as you said before, we've got Sean from Peak Performance coming out. Every 1% does matter and does count. So as far as Peak Performance goes, PEAQ, which is a company here in Adelaide, they do training both in person and online, so you don't have to be in Adelaide, South Australia to use their services. To squeeze that extra 1% out, have you had much experience with Peak itself?
Yeah, I go to the physical location of Peak in just kind of north of West Beach, and that's my gym. That's where I go. They have done the, I guess, Ultimate in general, but Outbreak, the main men's club here, a deal, and we get good membership fees there. And so there's a few of us that use just the gym facilities. I know Lace is on the field, number 10 in Riptide, has previously used a one-on-one coaching program there, even though he lives in Blackwood, which is a good half an hour, 45 minutes away, as we see that just kind of be outside the reach of Scott Swart's fingers.
Not a classic layout, more a fallout, I think. But at least the intent was in there. Thank you, Scott Swart. So you've used their gym.
Mm-hmm.
And what about their physio services? Because they have a physio service, don't they?
I have had to use their physio services. A couple of seasons ago when I had problems with my arm, in the lead up to nationals, I got some work done, and I actually arguably played one of my best seasons that year. So whether that's the physio or the gym use or just all the timings coming together, who knows? But it was worth what I paid for anyway.
Yeah, let's put it up to the physio as a wayward throw. Was that Smith?
That was Smith being intercepted by Luke Meyer, who has been called up from the reserves list to replace Sam O'Connell, who had to finish the season early. So Luke getting earning his stripes there as he goes out and gets a D and quickly straight back
getting
to
his happy face on. This is just as a defender, you can't ask for something better than a throw straight to you.
It's a nice treat, isn't it?
Tasty.
Peak also offer a recovery program, which some of the boys have been using kind of just before a tournament normally. I know there's a group that went up before nationals last season, and I spoke to the head coach of our women's sister club here, Zig Theory, and they are considering using the Peak recovery program in the lead up to regionals, or possibly during regionals, which are being hosted here at West Beach.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, like I said, we started this conversation with every 1%. Why wouldn't you use a dedicated company that gets that extra performance out of you? Why wouldn't you use that when you're at this level? In fact, any level, that extra bit of fitness, you can bring it into your daily life, not just into your sports life as well. There's so many uses for Peak Performance, I think.
Yeah, and you can see that when you go to the gym and you see athletes of all kind of walks, from just older people just trying to keep fit or young guys entering the game. They have AFLW players I've seen there, NBL basketballers. There's a lot of lacrosse and rugby and all walks, and a lot of young guys that are hoping to work on their individual game and push into teams in the future as well. It's a real mixed bag, which is a real compliment to the work Sean and the team have done there to make themselves accessible to so many different athletes.
Yeah, Wills. No break, no break. No inside.
Southside doing a good job just moving backwards, and there's Sean Lace in that pivot position that we expect to see him in earlier. He puts one up.
I think Davis is all on this.
Crowd there, but you'd back Davis.
I'd back Davis, yeah. He got the hand to it. That's definitely his D. A few hands in the back.
A bit of push and shoving, but that's the contact they were all happy with. Maybe someone else might have called that, but they were happy, and the red get it moving quickly. There's Raman and putting it up to Rob. We've talked about Rob's speed, but Johnny's closing in. Warren White with the big jump.
Does enough.
I think Rob probably put that down to the second touch. He's not making a call.
No call on that one.
Warren White's wondering if there's one coming, but it was also possibly out the back there, which negates the need for a call because it wouldn't have affected anything.
That was definitely on Whiten's mind. As we see here, Davis sees the free. I think it's Ramadan. Is he coming in? No, it's... was that Kaon? Ramadan now. He puts it up. Just hangs in the air for a little bit too long. Warren White gets there. The black line of the back of the end zone really, I think,
play.
worrying Whiten, as well as the pitter-patter footsteps of Warren White behind him.
It was a great cut and a great option, but oofed, as we see a perfectly fine option just being put as it was slightly behind, seeing in that situation.
So 2 errant throws by Riptide in a matter of minutes, causing turns.
There's Kaon dictating the play again, finds Ramadan, not quite in the end zone, but on the doorstep and hits.
Tie.
Who is that tie for the score? That's 2 breaks in a row to Titans, and something we've seen a 2-0 lead by Riptide disappear to a 4-2 deficit.
It's a 4-point turnaround. So Titans on the run here, looking magical in every way. Meanwhile, what has happened to this Riptide team?
I think it's fair to say it's too soon to blame it on the tired legs and the lack of subs.
As we see here, just the graphic of the win-loss for all of the teams at the moment.
You can see how tight it is. It's the goal difference ranges from +3 to -6 to Adelaide Force, but that's still, like, you know, one game can swing that quite a bit, or, you know, any one of those teams could win the next 3 and take the whole thing.
Not a lot in it when you think that each team has played 6 games, and when there's only a point difference of -6, that's 1 point per game.
It's hard to call, and it might even come down to what players are available, the personnel. The game that's coming up later tonight, both teams are missing some key senior personnel. It would make for an interesting contest, I'm sure.
Indeed. So what do Riptide have to do in order to pull this 4-point swing around back in their advantage?
Yeah, they've been giving it up early. Now might have been a good time for them to call the timeout and just to reset themselves a bit. They've opted not to, and it's back in play with Ramadan with the large pull. Lace to pick it up and send it to Baddix.
Yeah, normally when a team gets 3 on the run, you call a timeout. But like I said, that's been 4 on the run.
Oh, that's a strong grab by
Edgeworth in front of Ramadan.
To Eichner, who sees it into his hands securely. Eichner's not one to often look for a long downfield, and instead decides to hit Narayan.
Narayan.
Narayan, thank you. Back to Baddix in the middle, who quickly moves it to Singh. Oh, it's low, but Eichner's good for it.
Lace, steady as always. Baddix gets free from Lazada. Edgeworth didn't want to lay. Was a little bit out of his arc that he was coming around at.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to grab when it's kind of spinning in at you and can easily spin out of your hands. I think he could have, I mean, it's hard to say. He was coming out at a pace. But you really got to make sure of every catch at this stage, especially after dropping a few easy ones. And now it's on Riptide to really put the pressure on Titans, see if they can claw one back.
Whiten's going long, and it's a late throw.
Oh,
but I think Warren White is going to be the recipient. I think they're all out the back. So as much as Ty would have liked to have brought that down and said, I got it first, it didn't really matter in the end.
We had a great look at that here, and that looked at very much, they grabbed it at the same time, and the rules in that case would lend it to Ty's disc as offensive player. But thankfully they didn't have to have that discussion, because sometimes those discussions take a while, and it's good just to keep it moving.
So Baddix as a handler is just hanging deep and wrecking that deep space as Narayan goes into there. Now Eichner looking for some reset, does it upfield.
Great job covering Baddix then.
Edgeworth free.
Edgeworth with the Diz, kind of in the front third. He's the only guy with assists on this team so far.
Lace to the far side. Break side.
There's no movement downfield. I don't know if the camera's catching all of this, but you can see Baddix and Lace moving back and forth, occasional swing, and there's Narayan who's also in that position, but there's no next option, and boy, there's a call in this instance.
So we see here, goes back to Baddix.
You can see in that replay just then you would have seen 5 very flat-footed downfield players. Narayan now wants goal, but no one's moving for him, so it's back to Baddix again, and then he hasn't even got the swing this time. Maybe Blue is feeling the tired legs. That's a great break to Johnny. That's an easy one to arm.
Okay, so Riptide be happy about that when we just see that on the replay here. Baddox looking upfield, no one moving. Does an inside throw to Warren White. And there's the score as we see it. So we've got a bit of a break here as the Titans lead 4-3. Be back after these messages.
Nova Scotia Electric, become a member.
So as we come back from this timeout, and the word from Titans is they just want to keep offering those unders, run Riptide ragged. Personally, I'd like to see Riptide just tighter on their marks at the moment. I think there's a lot of free cuts that are just being let go. Now, I don't know why that is. There's something in the air tonight. Both teams seem to be doing it, whereas in previous weeks, I've seen a lot tighter marking.
There is a sense where you each of these teams kind of have two key players behind the disc who really want to be kind of dictating the speed and the tempo and the manner of the way the disc moves down the field. For Riptide, that would be Sean Lace and Andy Baddox, who are both veterans of the sport. They've been around a long time and they've played a lot of nationals and done a lot of campaigns, a lot of Super Leagues. Probably quite a few wins between them. I know this wouldn't, if Sean Lace does get the win for the Super League, it wouldn't be his first. And then on the Titans, you've got Ferdy Ramadan and Wilson Tran, who are newer players. Wilson also with a couple of strong Super League wins under his belt as captain, 2 in a row with an undefeated season, only the second team to do so. Ramadan with his first time captaining. But they're the young up-and-coming players versus the veterans of the sport, and it's interesting to see how they compare.
That's more like the team you're on, the veterans, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say it's taken us a while to find our feet, which is a strange. Like, you would have thought we'd come out with all connections, but I think we were a bit too mixed up, and then no one was willing to put in the hard work to really link the play, which you need. Like I said earlier, the Super League runs fast. Like, it's quick moving, it's intense, it's high level. You can't just take one step and think you're going to be free and you can get an easy disc. You really got to earn the frisbee, which you'll see Ramadan and Tran do at every single instance, as you will Baddox and Lace, but it's a really real test to see, is it going to be the experienced heads or the young legs that will be able to drive their team all the way to the end of this game.
You did mention earlier that there was a competition on the weekend that Ramadan played a part in. Did any of these other players that you know of play in that competition, or has training been particularly hard this week, which might be accounting for a bit of flatness? Yeah,
so the state rep team trains on Saturday mornings, and those that weren't in Melbourne did have a session, but that's, hopefully you've had enough recovery time between now and then. And most of that team are training pretty consistently, so you don't really get those lethargic legs the next day per se. You're staying on top of it because you're moving a lot and your fitness levels are high. Those that went to Melbourne, as you see Titans, you really get right up to the doorstep with Ramadan on the disc, using his commander-in-chief, Sam Kay, on there, who hits Tarleton quickly for tie for the goal.
Now, what I noticed in that point were a lot of lazy switches. I'm going to call them lazy switches because I believe they are lazy switches. They weren't hard and fast, honest switches. The first one came from Baddox, you see right here, or maybe not in this set, I'm not too sure. But he switched with a cutter handler that he was on, coming up the line, causing a whole lot of confusion upfield as to who was marking who, and I think that probably resulted in the Titans score for this point at least.
It's that bigger round break from Sam Cowan doing the damage again. And someone from the crowd, the sizable crowd here, yelled out, "Oh, there's another hockey assist for you, Kaon." So he's racking up a few of them, which is a very valuable contribution to a team. It doesn't get you the fancy points that I'm sure Kaon wants.
So at the moment we're 5-3. Look, if you're watching this at home, put in the messages. Who do you think is going to win? Will it be Riptide? Will they come back? Was their 2-0 start just a fluke? Or do they have the legs in them to bring it back and call these Titans out?
Titans looking pretty comfortable at the moment.
A long pause between these points.
Yep. Coming in with the pull, that's going to float out of bounds and be a brick. Really, still in the honours.
There's really no reason for that on a night like tonight. The pulls might be a factor in the end.
There's a fainter slight of a breeze, but it may increase as the night goes on as the weather is expected to turn somewhat. But as it stands, these are excellent conditions.
Andy Baddocks jogs it back to the brick mark.
Come on, Tim. Go, Tim. Come on, Jay. Come on, Jay.
Alf making excellent cutting options.
Rob.
To lace in the middle.
Sam. Up.
Baddocks with that 7 cut and shoots for Eichner. 30 is a big competition, but Eichner has what it takes. It's a great grab.
30 has a great leap, but Eichner just an extra 3 or 4 inches on that. Read it perfectly to make sure Ramadan didn't even have a whiff on that one.
Ramadan is not the tallest man on the field, but he plays tall. He's got big hops and he attacks the disc early and hard, which is what's been, I mean, as does Eichner. They're both excellent attackers of the disc and it's kind of like jump-started their ultimate careers in the last few years.
Yeah, and there really wasn't much separation between the two, maybe 2 metres at most, but I think Baddocks was the one who threw that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just saw that and just gave it enough height, enough flow out the back of the end zone for Eichner's advantage.
Needs to be perfect when Ramadan's on the chase as well. His closing speed is good. He's got strong legs, that man. It's all those hours he spends standing at the Macca's hot plate flipping burgers, maybe. Actually, I'm not sure he still does that or not. Riptide still needing another break. Actually, 2 more breaks, I believe, to get it back on serve because they started on offense. If you're new to watching this sport, it's not all that dissimilar to tennis, the way that how valuable services are. So the team that's receiving the disc here, which would be Titans, they're starting on offense, and they really need, there's no excuse for them not to be able to put it away. As unlike footy or soccer where the ball can be literally ripped from you, in ultimate you have to give it away to some degree. It's either by pressure or by a team kind of with a remarkable feat of athletic prowess to get the D. The Titans, if you have possession, which they do now, they should be able to put this away, and if not, we call that a break, and that's Riptide needs 2 of those in order to get back right on serve in this game.
Comment from the Andy Baddocks on the field, making everyone here laugh.
Hey, shorten it up, guys, shorten it up. Got to clear that space.
And we've just had Sean from Peak enter the building, so we look forward to hearing from him momentarily. Meanwhile, back in the action, Smits. Nice throw to Ramadan. Canless looking at Tran, knocking on the door here. Kaon, this is where the threat comes. Will Whiten lay out? No, he won't. So exactly the same corner we saw earlier where Ramadan chose not to lay out either. Maybe the players on the field know something about that patch of turf that we don't. As Andy Baddocks picks up the disc. Quite a slow walk to bring that into play. Bit more urgency in Ramadan's defence then. Nice peel by Smits, but lets Narayan get it. Sean Lace working Whiten hard. Obviously some training going in there. Everyone's going deep at the same time, so that throw's not going to come off. Meanwhile, Eichner with an easy under. Fakes a big backhand. Not seeing that released. Lace asking for something on the far side. Smith, and that's just a plain fumble drop by Andy Baddocks. He will be so disappointed with himself with that one.
Yeah, he put himself in a good position to look into the goals. Or probably was already looking downfield too much. And there's Wilson seeing Talis go
Narayan is there.
Maybe.
Yes, he peeled off at the right time. That's what happens when you hang out the back with a defender and if they've got their wits about them like Narayan does.
True. Arguably that was Tim Davis's D then.
It was.
Keeping his player out there. But however, Talis did go Smits went very early and Wilson threw that very early, so it's hard to see that one coming when you're throwing. So I think Talis took off from almost next to him when training through that.
Got to have eyes all around you and your wits on you when you've got that disc in your hand. Warren White with the disc at the moment. Looking for runs under. Nothing's coming. Smith free. Lace now with the disc. Lace to Eichner, very cheeky underneath the arms of Tran. And that's another cheeky one going underneath the arms, this time of Canless. Narayan, 5 metre dump. Stretched out arm from Lace. Eichner now. Danger zone. They had a bit too much of an angle on it for Warren White to reel that one in. You see that here, just a bit more of an outside in flick, and therefore fading away from the reach of Warren White. So got Ramadan here, going up the far sideline. Smits doesn't have that throw to Whiten. Oh, that was a beautiful put effort by Seng Deng. Now Whiten. Centre it. K-on. Ramadan's long.
Oof. When's he not going to throw that? It was already quite deep, Ramadan, then, so you can see why, but there was still plenty of space. There's Ramadan with the round break again. Canla's not quite holding on to that.
No, and the rotation of the disc beating his outstretched hand on that occasion.
Just as we wait for Andy Baddocks' long, slow, arduous walk to the disc, I'm going to introduce Sean Baker here, who has come over from Peak Conditioning Coaching. How are you today, Sean?
Good, thanks, Foles. Thanks for having me, mate. How are you?
Yeah, we're very good. This is Phil, Sean.
Hey, Sean. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Been looking forward to this moment for a long time, mate. Have a chance to sort of like pick your brains and see what's happening out there at Peak.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate the opportunity. Sorry it's taken so long. I guess, this time of year is really prime time, from December through to probably April is when you find most of your winter sports are getting stuck into their pre-seasons. And you see, so there's some exciting play going on here.
Yeah,
take over, boys.
Lace with the great shot to Eichner, and as Sean arrived, just before I point them both out to him, because they've both been down to Peak, and you recall them coming over to do you, Sean?
Look, I will claim anybody who's been through our doors.
Absolutely.
They've been fantastic. I think Lacey was doing some programming through us for quite a while, and early in our development as a business, he was down there and was supporting us. So very grateful for a number of people in the Frisbee community, particularly with Foles, and although he's not here tonight, we're just talking about John Brill as well, who's involved in sort of the national program and those sorts of things as well. So wonderful community and very grateful to be part of it.
Great. Now, I'm just interested to hear this Peak story actually from start to where it is now. So What was the impetus behind forming Peak for you?
Yeah, look, it could be a long and boring story, but I found, I guess I originally started out as what I call a bit of a spud footballer. Always was, really involved in and enjoyed the pre-season aspect, so running and the gym side of things, but I struggled to find that magical red football on the weekend. Yeah. Maybe not as confident as some of my teammates, and decided to, I thought I was going to get into PE teaching. I only got the results to get a single degree in human movement, needed the double in human movement and teaching. So I thought, I'll just jump into it anyway and tack on teaching at the end.
And was that done here locally, that course? Yeah.
Yeah, just at Uni SA, so not too far away from City East here, my stomping ground. That's sort of where it all started.
Nice.
Young, skinny boy, 65 kilos, of pure pure skin and bone, who sort of fell in love with the gym side of things. I guess during that time, a few opportunities popped up, and was fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with Adelaide Crows for a year.
Lovely.
That led on to some roles in the SANFL and working overseas with some cricket as well. And all sort of the while, I was doing some private stuff on the side just simply to make ends meet. There's probably you guys from a sporting sense, and cut me off if you need to at any stage if there's things going on, can empathise, that it was certainly more about the passion than it was for finance. Much like probably the guys out here that do this for passion. So had to find a way to make ends meet, and that's something that grew on the side while I was doing lots of part-time roles in S&C industry in South Australia.
Nice. As we just saw some really fluid movement down that far sideline by the Titans to score quite an easy goal in the end with ties. We see that in replay here. That's the one which broke them apart through the mid, the longer throw, and then nothing that Blue can do about that one. So we've got the Titans on 6, Riptide on 5. Sean, who were your mentors? You mentioned you did some work with the SANFL. That's the South Australian Football League here. Who can you name some names?
Yeah,
so how did you learn?
Yeah, probably early on. When I did some work at the Crows, a guy called Nick Poulos was my supervisor there. Really, really smart guy. Had worked in Australian Rugby Sevens and rugby prior to getting involved in the AFL. So, a lot of the things that he taught me in that year still, lay the foundations of a lot of the philosophies and principles. Obviously now, you continue to add to that with little tricks and tools in your toolbox from other things that you learn from elsewhere. But, he really set the standard and probably showed me what it takes to have the work ethic and, the professionalism to work in both semi and pro sporting environments.
And you talked about philosophies and principles, which I think are essential in every walk of life. What are your philosophies and principles when you bring everything together at Peak? What are your main philosophies and principles that guide you?
I think from a gym programming point of view, I actually am a big believer. There's been lots of swings and roundabouts in the S&C industry, and certainly at times we can get caught up in all the beautiful and sexy exercises you see on social media. But I would argue that probably 80% of programming at its foundations is very similar, whether you've got a frisbee athlete, a basketballer, a footballer. I think if you want to get them to squat properly, hinge, lunge and thrust, people say push and pull, but I think pushing forwards and pushing upwards is quite different. Similarly, pulling from like a chin up and what we call a vertical pull is very different to a horizontal pull. So laying those foundations of sort of those big 8 exercises, and then from a core point of view, bracing and rotating are really important. That should really form the foundation of most things, and then it's the other 20%.
As Warren White puts a big one up. There's Tran in the way. Big hand, big leap.
That was almost a excellently played, possibly set play. It looked like a break from the first disc straight to Warren White, straight to Narayan without even really having a look, which was where the problem was, because Tran peeled off the back and was there for the D.
Now, have you seen much Ultimate, Sean?
Prior to opening the facility, no. And then...
Sorry, we're just going to interrupt you there. That's a great bit D from Baddix with a bit of a heads up and quickly feeding the icon there for the goal to... Is that to even it up?
It is. So Riptide and Titans 6 apiece, I believe, now. So you're looking at the game at the moment. What are you seeing? Like, what can you offer the people at the moment from just the brief live sport you've got in front of you here?
Yeah, I think people really underestimate the athleticism. I think like the agility, the power, the change of direction, and even the conditioning. It's quite a lot of repeated speed. You can see the guys, obviously taking a little bit of time to get their breath back as they work their way through. You have probably a burst of 2 or 3 minutes there where it's high intent. There's lots of dodging, weaving, jumping, decision making. I think that there's some awesome athletes out here that I think should really be recognised for not only what they can produce on the field, but the work that goes into it and behind the scenes as well.
Now, just want to ask you this question. So we're working with Ultimate here. The majority of our viewers will be Ultimate players, but they'll also have other sports. If a person comes into you from whatever sport it might be, whether it's Ultimate, which we're seeing here, or it's soccer, it's netball, even lawn bowls maybe, I don't know. What separates you from maybe giving everyone a stock standard sort of workout that you pull out of the soccer racks for an Ultimate player? Do you tailor it to make it Ultimate specific? What sort of chat do you have with the client to make sure that the training and the exercises that you give them are tailored to meet not only their own physical body needs, but their sports needs?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I probably talked about before our philosophy about, I talked about the 80% that is quite similar. The other 20% in a gym perspective is what we call like plyometric, so jumping, where the athletes apply their force. I think that is quite individualised for the sport. So say, for example, an Ultimate athlete could be quite different to basketball in that sense. The other thing is the conditioning aspect. So the more what you probably call the cardio. I think cardio for a Frisbee player is much different to cardio for a footballer, much different to cardio for a netballer or a rugby athlete. Oh,
that's a great toe of the sideline there to keep that disc alive. K-on. Nice dump and a quick swing to the sideline. Far sideline. Smith's now with the disc. Sorry, I'll bring back to you in a moment, Sean, if that's okay.
No, go for it, please.
Just look back at this play. We are enjoying hearing you and the story that you've got at the moment, but at the moment we've got Davis, not with his fluoro yellow shorts on, so hiding in the grass maybe, to Lazada and Tran for another easy walk-in going left to right of screen for this red Titans team.
Yeah, Titans have worked through that zone a couple of times now. It doesn't really seem to have travelled them too much. It helped when you've got a few kind of sneaky throws, and Lazada probably most famous just for his ability to find small spaces.
That toe in again. Look at that. Perfect. Total awareness there. Now, Sean, just bring it back to you. Talking about plyometrics. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, was that brought in by the Russians initially?
You find that probably the majority of the principles are formed in Europe somewhere. You've got Russian twists, you've got Bulgarian squats, you've got, there's Romanian deadlifts. So I guess a lot of what we do, it does have some sort of foundation there. I think potentially we give our athletes a little bit more choice and a little bit more power over themselves than maybe potentially the old school, where it was all formed back in Europe. But, they were certainly ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think a lot of what we do and continue to do is, a rehashed or, rejigged version with a little bit of our own spice of things that we're doing back in the day. So, absolutely.
Now, a bit of probably a leading question, which I might know the answer, I'm not too sure though, is when you were talking earlier on about, things that are current, like flavour of the day type of stuff. Do you go in for these fads, these sort of things that seem to be cyclical? They might be here for 6 months and then the next fashion and fad comes in, or how do you select what you're going to use?
That's a wonderful question. It's something that we deal with in our industry all the time. I think it's really important to certainly take those new training principles and tools and exercises and modalities into account. But I think it's really important as a coach to understand that is one tool in the toolbox. You should never marry yourself to one of those principles. You should always put it in there and pull it out in the appropriate time. So, again, we might be talking gibberish here, but velocity-based training is appropriate sometimes. You'll hear some coaches that say that's the only way. Here we go.
There's Barry putting another one up to Eichner. He's caught a few, but I think Davis will get that D again. He's a big man up there, and he's played often enough to know how to put his body in the line and really hold out that space.
If you're a betting person, every day of the week I'd pick Tim Davis to bring those down.
This is predominantly a non-contact sport, Sean, but as you would have seen just then, that big man in the number 9, he knows how to put his body in the way so someone can't come in and just take his space. They can't just push him over, and he can hold it there and kind of claim position and therefore be in the best position to get that D.
And that almost takes more core strength than some of those guys that just crash into each other. Having the ability to be able to brace yourself without imposing yourself on another athlete, positioning your body. I think that's just as impressive.
And then do the vertical jump.
Yeah, that's it. At the same time, you sort of see.
Ramadan with an easy one from Maya, and that's a break for Titans to take half.
I was going to say that Titans are starting to break away here a little bit. You sort of see this similar to an extent in, we talk about netball being a non-contact sport, but certainly, the way they position themselves and hold their body when under duress and making sure they don't give away any penalties or fouls to the other team, I think shows more impressive core strength than guys just crashing into each other and hoping that inertia does the job.
Yeah, exactly. So that means we've now got half 8-6. I'm just looking around. Do we want to play a role or do you want to continue this conversation? What are your thoughts, Sean? Would you like to...
Hey, I'm easy either way. I'm enjoying my time here, but if you want to rest, feel free to go for it.
I'm happy to keep chatting, actually,
Sure,
through the breaks. You can play the highlight reel to a great anchor, Rex, at the back behind me. He's really setting all this up for us, and kudos to him and to also ulti.TV. But let's talk with you now through this halftime break, Sean. So we've been talking about a whole lot of things at the moment. Now, you spell your name, Peak, interestingly. It's got a Q on it. Why? Why is that?
I'm not dyslexic, and not that there's anything wrong with that at all. But yeah, certainly wanted to, I guess, really have that the name underpin what sets us apart. So, I have played around with P. Was originally we sort of called it personalised, but now we probably refer to it more as periodised. So periodised, evidence-based is our E. A is applied, so we apply it in real-world settings, and we're qualified as well. So we have that sort of extra set of certifications. All of our coaches have either a minimum of an undergraduate degree in exercise science or have an accreditation with ASCA, which is the governing body of strength and conditioning in Australia. And it is a bit of a taboo subject. Is that unfortunately, same again. Strength and conditioning coach can be a word or a term or a label that's thrown around a little bit, but not everybody is an S&C coach. If you've only done your certificate 3 and 4, that's a personal trainer. Not that there's anything wrong. Your personal trainers are wonderful, but it's just about referring to career pathways and accreditations appropriately, which help to guide you as to which populations you sort of are adverse to working to.
So let's talk qualifications then. So you obviously got yours from UniSA here. What about ongoing, keeping up with the trends and the latest science, sports science? How do you do that? How do you incorporate that into your company, into the trainers you've got there? And if you want, you can also go into the different type of trainers that you have there. Like here you've got physios on board as well. If you've got other people, I'd love to hear about them. But just first of all, answering the question, that ongoing professional development.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's a prerequisite. So I guess just to sort of expand on, obviously, the undergrad degree at UniSA. From there, I did go on to do a master's degree in exercise science at Edith Cowan University in Perth. I only went over there for sort of an intensive period and then did the rest by correspondence back here in SA. So that was sort of another step up. And then, sort of mentioned before, the governing body of strength and conditioning in Australia is the ASCA, or Australian Strength and Conditioning Association of Australia. They have, 6 levels, and each of those requires ongoing commitment to personal development. So you're required to, depending on which level you're at, you have to sort of hit a number of reaccreditation points per year. They can be made up of going to conferences, seeking out personal development, mentoring other coaches that are sort of at lower levels, physically coaching at pro sporting teams and those sorts of things too. So out of the 6 levels in Australia, I'm sitting currently at the 5th level, which is exciting. So one more to go. I do have to sort of sit at this level for a number of years and tick a lot of boxes before I'm even considered. And currently at the moment, in terms of sort of being at the 5th level, there's only 2 of us in South Australia at the moment. So
that sounds
something
really
that
good.
we do take pride in, and then sort of continue to try to filter down all those learnings and those same philosophies to our coaches, and continue to sort of push them to upskill as well. So we run PD every second Friday for our staff at the facility, and really enjoy learning more.
As we see Titans again run away with a fairly easy series of passes down the field.
Titans took the half with the double break because they came back into the new half on offense, and you can see that they just, once they had started creating space, the Southside were just behind them the whole way. It was a great gainer underneath from Kevin Lazardo to get it started, and then it kind of quickly went naturally across the field, but it hit in front of the pace of the defenders, and suddenly they got pass, goal with no one to be seen.
And we were talking about this at the beginning of the game, Ben, that the Riptide are playing savage, whereas Titans do have a complement of 4 on the sideline to sub. So this, I think, is now coming into play. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, that would surprise me. I would have thought that Riptide would be able to keep up a little bit. The conditions are great. The points have been relatively short. They've got, I'm just looking at their line now, I think 5/7, 6/7 of those boys in the field right now are doing a game point performance program that the Outbreak A team are doing, so they should be quite fit as they prepare for the regional competition in a couple of weeks' time. Not that many of them are in Melbourne on the weekend, so I would have thought it wouldn't have been a major factor, but I mean, Titans are just stringing them together quite comfortably into the break passes. It's getting around or getting it back laterally across when they get in front, and it's just leaving Riptide chasing the whole way.
Yeah. Am I allowed to flip the title and ask you boys some questions?
Yeah, absolutely,
okay?
yeah, for sure.
I'm a big, I love learning about all types of sports. We feel very grateful to be involved in a number, and I guess I just love game tactics, and I think that there's so much to be learnt from cross-pollination of sports.
Absolutely.
I think that, football can learn lots from rugby and soccer, and I think we can learn more from here. From your guys' perspective, if you guys were the Riptide at the moment, what would you do to stop some of the bleeding? Do you slow the play down a little bit and try to be a bit more tactical? Or how would you boys go about it if you were out there?
Ben, do you want to go into this one first?
Me, sure. Let's just see how this play unfolds first. I was going to say great grab from Ang, but he didn't quite hold on to it. That's going out the back. And I think we saw earlier that Riptide were doing a quite good job of moving it laterally through their handlers. So Sean, they're the quarterbacks of the sport. That would be Lace or number 6, Andy Baddocks here. They were moving kind of across the field, back and forth a bit, just to kind of control the tempo and the pace and look for the right options downfield. But they were really struggling with downfield options. And it was not Eichner, who I think is on the he's on the field. It was not Eichner going long for a goal. They're really struggling to find that next pass downfield. So I would possibly start by just scripting some movement, just having a bit of a plan as to who's going to make this next cut and when and where and how, and then let's get it going down the field.
Yeah, talking of tactics, we've seen over the last few weeks really just this vertical stack. And Sean, we've got usually a line of people in the middle here you might be able to see in the middle of the field. We call that a vertical stack. Tactically, I might like to see a bit of a swap up to what's called a horizontal stack, so that line goes across the field instead.
That's a great grab. Is there
no
it's
call.
Just a drop. That was a big pack grab, and it's good to see pack grabs without calls, because you sometimes get, Sean, we were speaking earlier about the level of contact is often dictated by the players early on in the game. If someone says that was a foul call and it was a little bit soft, then you're kind of opening a door for a lot of pretty soft foul calls as the game progresses.
Yes.
And it's good to see a pack grab where everyone was kind of involved, but short of someone whacking a hand away or pulling the shoulder down, it all was just a bit of rubbing shoulders, and it's all fine.
That's fantastic. What a unique sport to be self-refereed. I love that. That's fantastic. And, again, so many other sports could learn from that as well.
I think there's a lot of fear. I mean, I don't know. Are there any other sports that are self-refereed in the universe?
Not that I know of. I think there's some other disc sports that might be. I think guts is self-refereed.
Yeah. So we're talking disc sports, frisbee type of brown ball, flat ball, whatever you want to call it.
Sport, is hacky sack self-refereed? I'm not sure how that sport works, but the origins of Ultimate came from the same kind of university as hacky did back in the 50s or 60s or whatever, when everyone was inventing friendly things to do together.
Yeah.
And it's evolved to what it is. And even at the highest level, Sean, they have what they call observers, who are people you can defer to for opinions. And
they've only just been introduced as well. They weren't always there.
Yeah. And their opinion isn't grounding. Like, if they might share something and you can still disagree and choose not to just a third party that can give you some insights.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
mate.
but it works, and there's a balance, and it also creates a totally different culture, which I don't know if you can experience that just on the sideline today, but
absolutely.
every other sport will have some level of pushback, I guess you would call it, against the referees, and you can see that in soccer a lot, obviously, when people are trying to gain frees by rolling on the ground. And you get it in Aussie rules, you get the little elbow in the ribs or something from the guy standing next to you. You don't get that in Ultimate because you can't get away with it. Like,
No.
every single player out there is an umpire and can make those calls.
That's fantastic. Good to see a little score back there.
Yeah, that's Warren White, the coach of our men's team that's travelling to nationals in April. Still got it, still on the field scoring goals, and is a big part of this Southside Riptide team.
Going back to the refereeing, it's funny. I come from probably two sports we've been working with most recently. You've got the AFL, for example, which has gone through a big change recently with the umpire dissent rule. Because of the level of kickback to the umpire, they had to bring in specific rules about ensuring what your body language is like. And then probably on the other side of the fence, we're working with basketball at the moment. You've got the coach, working up and down, screaming at the ref as they go, and technical fouls, and it's a whole different world.
It's a really interesting concept, that, isn't it? So, like, and the culture behind it. That when you speak to people that come from other codes, and you say it's self-refereed, they go, well, how do you sort things out? They're going to be big fights and no one's going to get anywhere. And it just is not the case at all. It's just so opposite of what people are expecting. And as we've discussed over and over, even just in this short time, that I think a lot of other sports could learn from it. The only thing I would say to that is that sometimes they've already got the culture so embedded in their mind, it's going to be hard for them to sort of like take that element out of their thinking.
It's a good thing to learn, though, that the sport is not, strictly speaking, just in this case, 14 players on the pitch, or the 36 on an Aussie rules oval. The sport is the umpires as well. They are an integral way the game governs, and every time you bring in a VAR or whatever they call them in the other codes the computer feedback referees, like you're changing the sport to some degree, whether it's apparent immediately or not. The game changes, and that's would be all the more true if we introduce referees here, or if we took them out of other sports. There's big shifts that you recognise. It's not, the game isn't in and of itself just who's on the field. There are elements outside of that make it what it is.
Absolutely.
That's great.
That's another easy put in from West Beach there. I think Riptide really need to recognise the way that West Beach moving down the field, which is these lateral breaks, but then quickly it's Ramadan and Tran and Kaon, like they're hard people to stop, and there's going to be throw some different looks at them and really upset them, because at the moment Titans are happy just to even if they give one back to Riptide now, they'll put in the next one. They're happy just to kind of keep coming back and putting them away, and I can't really see Riptide upsetting that right now unless they mix it up and cause some pressure on the Titans.
Yeah, and to put it into context for you, Sean, this is round 7. We've got 4 teams in the competition. We've got 3 round robins, so each team has 3 games against the other 3 teams, and a lot of the games have gone down to the wire. They've gone really down to what we call universe point, which is game is tied, the next point that scores wins the game. So in the context of a 3-point difference like we're seeing here, that's actually quite a lead. But we have seen that come back in the last throws of the game. They've sort of woken up, as it were, put their mental game back into action, maybe put those tactics out there. But in the context of this game, 3-point lead at this stage, 7-10 games usually go to about 15. Each point's roughly 3 minutes in the making. If the Riptide just are happy to exchange, they're not going to make it. They really need to start pulling something special out of their bag of tricks.
Yeah, speaking about how games work, the way this game finishes is a team has to score to win, ultimately. So there's a time cap. It's at 80 minutes. We're sitting on 63 minutes at the moment. At 80 minutes, if there hasn't been a team that's reached the score cap of 15, they'll finish the point that's currently being played, and then they'll play to one higher than the highest score. So if the time cap went now, they'll finish this point. Riptide are in possession of the disc, so let's say they score it and it's 10-8, it'll be then game to 11. So you have to win the last point to win the game, which does mean you see instances where a team could be 3 points down. It's after the time cap where they go on to get 3 points in a row to steal the game from them.
Yep.
Yeah, again, a very interesting thing about our game. Most other games, when the whistle goes, that's the end of the game. But for this one, it's not.
You've got to see it out. And there's that big matchup we'd love to see, Ramadan up with Eichner. There's a bit of hip and shove, but they're both happy with it. They both got their bodies involved, and they were happy with that level. No one was, as we talked about, pulled arms or shoulders down. It's just trying to...
So we call that incidental contact. Didn't really affect anything, anyone's play. If someone maybe went down because of that contact, then there's likely to be a call of foul. It'd be obviously a nice call saying, hey, you know, that contact caused me to fall over. I didn't have a chance to play on that disc. But as Ben was saying, then happy to let those go at the moment.
They're choosing their own standard they're happy to play to. And both those lads as well are in contention for an Australian rep team later on this season. So they're working hard. They're definitely threats. And if you've been paying attention, they're both pretty involved in most of the action. Ramadan in the red more so with the frisbee in his hands, while Eichner more downfield trying to catch the goals.
Yeah.
Ramadan, an athlete of his own.
Is US the big player in this sport around the world?
The US is the big player.
Yeah.
There have been zero instances of Australians beating a US team. We make documentaries about when we lose on Universe.
Yeah. Which other teams sort of are around the mark?
Yeah, the North American ones are the big ones, so it's US and Canada.
Yeah.
And then offer, like Japan, are quite big. They play a very different game, where the US and Canada often play a large, like big ball kind of game, like big throws, big grabs. The Japanese are quick and play a lot of small ball, keep it all kind of close around the disc, and some interesting defensive tactics as well to mitigate the tall Americans. Colombia is quite a big player, I guess beat by proximity to the US as well. And then there's a bunch of the European nations that have taken to the sport. So GB is often in the conversation. The Germans actually did very well at the World Games Championships last year, beating the US in pool play, but then losing in their semi to end up playing Colombia for the bronze, while Australia beat Australia beat the Germans, I think, in the semi.
Wow.
And Australia went on to play US in the final, but lost by a goal or two to take the silver home.
I think by world standards, we say that Australia's probably had a solid third place for a long time.
Yep.
The US a solid first place for a long time.
It's like Canada in second.
Canada in second, I'd say. But like you're saying, a lot of the European teams are coming up and really challenging us for the third spot in those quarters, especially. It's getting more competitive worldwide, definitely.
It's funny, sort of, as you explain it, and probably something we haven't touched on, is that I'm also the S&C coach currently for the Australian men and women's lacrosse team too, and essentially it's similar sort of standings.
Yeah.
US generally, well, prior to this year actually, they were usually head and shoulders above the rest, but at the World Games, Canada managed to get up and beat them in the shorter format, which we're trying to sort of I guess lobby to get included in the Olympics. So there's potential that in the 2028 Olympics that'll be an inclusion. But generally it'll be Australia and Great Britain playing off for a bronze. So we sort of went 1-on-1 with them this year. We in the 10v10 more traditional format of the game, we lost in triple overtime, golden goal, which was one of the most heartbreaking losses we've ever been involved in. But proud of the girls who had a crack at that, and then we're lucky enough a couple of weeks later to go play in the shortened format in Alabama and beat Great Britain to get a bronze medal on the big stage. So you start to see there's like same sort of thing. You see some Japan and some European teams popping through. There's now I don't want to offend you, I don't know how to say it. They were formerly known as Iroquois, but now I think that was sort of labelled a derogatory term for the Native Americans. So I think it's now called Haudenosaunee, I think is sort of what they're labelled now. They're very skillful and athletic as well. So lots of likeness in the standings anyway. Another cool sport to watch if you have the opportunity.
Played a little bit of indoor lacrosse in my time. That was a whole lot of fun.
Tough.
But it's a different ball altogether to outdoor lacrosse. Trust me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, though, we were talking about Japan's ultimate play and the way they've got a different style on the ultimate field to a lot of the other countries. You talked about Japanese women lacrosse team. Is their style of play different in terms of lacrosse overall?
Fast, very fast. I think that's probably consistent across the board. I guess probably almost too fast sometimes. So I think probably some of their downfall is.
Yeah, you could describe the ultimate style the same. Very technical, but sometimes gets away from them.
It can be erratic, and sometimes is rushed. Sometimes, actually in a lot of different sports, speed to an extent is fantastic, but then you need some sort of composure to probably finish. You can get a shot on cage, but if it's an average shot because you're running too fast to have any sort of precision as to where it's going, it's either going over the cage or it's going to be an easy save for the keeper.
Yeah. We see Titans put another one away quite comfortably there, and the timeout is called. Probably, I assume, by Riptide, because it's much needed. Otherwise, this game is going to get away from them.
Yeah.
And for those of you that were watching as we had those other discussions, you could see that there was just too many easy options for Titans. I saw Smits being quite open and free, very comfortable. Kaon is getting the disc kind of wherever he wants it, whenever he wants it. There's maybe the defence for Riptide is either not keeping up or they're trying to do too many other things at once, which is definitely a risk, especially for veteran players. You like to keep your head up and look around at other options and try and help out, especially if you don't trust your teammates. But that's not the job that they need to do right now. They need to shut out some of those key players and really put the pressure on the individuals in Titans and force some mistakes.
Yeah, I think the mental game's going to come in for both teams now, as it often does when we reach the twilight hour of any game, and that is where we're behind at the moment. What do we do? And sometimes it's really down to that next point, whether it really gets stuck in your head and makes you get down and you're not having that fun and enjoyment. Because I know when we play, like, one of the key things is when you're enjoying the game, when you're having fun, you tend to be in that flow, you tend to be in that zone. Things keep going well for you, but when you start getting stuck in your head in that mental game, it's like you suddenly get those drops which wouldn't normally happen. You get the throwaways, all those sorts of pressures, mental pressures compound over time. So I think this point coming out of this timeout is going to be so important for Riptide to put one on the board, because otherwise, what do we got here? A 4-point difference all of a sudden with less than 10 minutes in play.
My team, the East Adelaide Force, we've talked about this every week, where no team is going to give this to you. You have to really go out there and fight for every single point. Like, a lot of these guys are kind of mid their national season. They're at peak fitness. If there's a pun involved there, I'm part of it.
Appreciate that.
And they're not going to give away the frisbee easily. I heard it on the weekend that Ramadan has taken every Monday off work for this Super League because he's taken it seriously. He wants to come in here and win it, and you can see it in the way he's moving, the way he's powering out of his carts, the way he's attacking that disc, and the way he's throwing more or less anything he wants to. And Riptide really need to find a way to stop Titan and to get back involved and get a grip on the game themselves. Otherwise, like you say, I feel it's going to get away from them very quickly.
Yeah. Just a quick question for you, Sean. Have you decided to petition Macquarie, Oxford or Cambridge to change the spelling of peak in the dictionary at the moment?
I haven't, but that's a wonderful suggestion. So that might be our sort of goal for the rest of this year. I'll reach out to him when I get home. I'll send an email.
That's that level 5.5 of the, was it ASAC that you were talking about?
ASCA, yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Or at least get it added anyway. Get it added.
We'll look it up in the dictionary. There's a picture of Sean just staring back at us.
Peak's your baby, but you've got a bit of a team and a bit of a family affair as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess probably when we first started, something that I guess naturally occurred and was something that we didn't intend to happen. Probably in the beginning when I was there, doing lots more hours and didn't have that same.
Sorry,
team.
Sean,
this is a Tim Davis special. It got pushed in the back, but it got turned over, so he doesn't worry about the call.
I think he was ready for one, and they've had a bit of hip and shove, those two boys already tonight, but there's no need for a call when the disc is down anyway.
Sorry about that, Sean. You're talking about the family?
Yeah, so I guess one of our big intents was to make Peak about Peak and not about just myself. So we wanted to really develop a great team of coaches and multidisciplinary professionals. So we put a lot of resources and time into developing our coaches, like we talked about, with personal development and giving them time on the floor and experience at those high levels. Trying to expose.
Great shot from Kaon to Ramadan, and once again, it's too easy. If you're watching around the frisbee, you can see how easy it was for Kaon just to get free down the line. Then, Kev kind of got boxed out or ran into a play, but he was also making an easy open under option. This Titans are finding space, and Riptide aren't doing anything about it at the moment.
Yeah, and look at the mental attitude of both teams as they're walking back to their lines. Titans giving each other high fives. The Riptide in blue at the other end of the ground. This is slowly walking back. You can see them in their heads, sort of thinking, what do we have to do now? There's another one that they scored. And as I said before, that 4-point, this is the first time I think it's been 4 points, hasn't it, this game?
That's it.
Yeah. So it's a big mental barrier. It's something you go, 4 becomes 5, 5 becomes 6, and you're thinking about that in your head before it even happens, and you make it happen because of those thought processes. But you've got to stop that. You've got to get back on that. Now, Sean, you've got physios involved.
Yes.
What about the mental side of it? Do you have something at the moment, or are you planning on doing something in that area?
Yeah, funnily enough, my wife actually has a psychology background, and she's probably a bit too modest. She doesn't really plug that fact too much. I would love to push her to explore that and offer that a little bit further, but she is really intent on making sure that she develops herself further before she offers those sides of things. And it is obviously a really developing area, and there's so much that we still don't know about that side. We're doing our best to decipher it. I think that probably particularly sports psychology in South Australia is poorly done at the moment. She's actually doing her PhD.
Obviously a big one put up there by Sean Lace. Aikner's all over that.
Yeah, he had the read. Wilson Tran was there to put some pressure on it, but Aikner had too good a look at it. As they give each other a bit of a hug, being teammates the rest of the season, but they're fierce rivals tonight. The sports psychology element has come into Ultimate, I would say, since I started playing at least. You see it particularly in the national teams where they've started bringing people in.
Awesome.
And some of the clubs that play at the national championships as well. You can see them doing some mostly mindfulness maybe before the games, and just kind of preparing and visualizing what a game would look like and how their involvement is in that game.
I don't want to put myself out of a job here, but I'm completely honest in saying that it doesn't matter how fit and strong you are, if you can't put it together mentally and psychologically, then unfortunately it's just not going to happen. You talked about before the mindsets you can see just out on the field here. There's been many a time where I've seen guys that will smash time trials, guys that will be the biggest squat or clean in the gym, but suffer from potentially performance anxiety and never sort of truly reach their full potential. Where conversely, maybe I've seen guys who aren't particularly as conditioned, but they've just got a real strong mindset and they go a lot further than what you would expect them to as well. So certainly don't want to put myself out of a job there, but if you can get that perfect balance of both, that's amazing. But I honestly think that almost mindset is 70% of it.
Yeah, I think you see that. I don't know if you're watching the tennis, Sean, but the Australian Open often gives us plenty of examples of that, where particularly the experienced players that know how to win. You can see Djokovic get an injury halfway through a game and think, oh, that's probably done. This young whippersnapper's going to come up and take it from him. But that's almost never the case, because he just knows how to fight through that pain barrier. He knows how to win games. He knows how to put pressure on his opponent, which are all skills that aren't necessarily done with a racket, although some of that would be. But it's just tricks of the mind, or tricks of his own strength and experience to be able to get wins when maybe other players with a tweak or whatever would be calling it.
Absolutely. Now, Fowler, you've got a couple of little ones now, mate. What age do you start getting a frisbee in your hands? Have you got any little soft frisbees at home that just a little introduction just to get a little bit of dexterity going early?
Yeah, I mean they definitely exist, and we've got one in the house. It's a funny thing, Ultimate, because, and we often say this when we introduce the sport to, say, 12-year-olds or in school programs or whatever, where most kids have thrown a ball or kicked a ball 1,000 times by the time they come to, a million times by the time they hold a plastic round flat thing. So it's different, It's a skill that they don't necessarily have just picked up kind of organically, if you will, just by having balls present in their life. And also, I guess maybe there's something not as natural about it or whatever. But there's no reason a young child could just pick up a frisbee and master throws. And you see players like Ramadan there with the disc number 8, who started playing when he was quite young, and now is one of the most
influential, really,
and competent throwers, I wanted to say, just because of the extra time he's had on the frisbee. I picked up the sport, as most people here would have, when we started university, and it was and those like kind of formative years where your body's still going to grow and stuff is mostly behind you, and you've missed that window of kind of mastering the touch of a frisbee while your body's kind of working itself out as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a big deal.
I think it's purely an exposure thing, because we see in the gym and we see when you guys come down and have had instances where you throw a frisbee in between, and you sort of we have a little muck around, and the excitement and the awe in the kids' eyes, when they see what you can do with a frisbee. It's like, I'd love to see this exposed to so many more kids, because potentially the participation rates would skyrocket, because it's such a fun thing, and everybody, essentially I would say 90% of people at some point in their life has been at the beach and tried it with a $2 cheapest chips frisbee.
Well, it's not the best introduction.
Here's one thing to think about with the frisbee, and that is that with most other ball sports, the way it flies, if you had put a big, massive tree/shrub between two players and a ball in their hand, the only way to go around that tree is over. But with a frisbee, you can actually go around because of the flight of the disc.
Yes.
Sean, if you like listening to yourself and you decide to share this game commentary with your peers or your co-workers or whatever, tell everyone to timestamp it at 80 minutes into the game, which is actually when the game finishes. Someone know that time cap? Because I want to tell you exactly why I love Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
So if you have any athletes out there that are getting bored of getting pushed around in AFL and haven't quite reached the physical prowess that you might have, tell them to come along here, because this is, if you look around right now, you're in green grass, you're outside, the weather's perfect, we play in summer. It's athletic, you get to run, you get to turn, you get to use all the skills that your bodies really enjoy pushing themselves to achieve. You're not going home with broken bits or bruises or black eyes, which maybe the missus will be happy about. And then the glide of the frisbee is actually something to enjoy and behold. The way it floats out into space. And we talked briefly about the different stacks teams might use, the vertical, the horizontal. Really, the whole point of that is to create space on the field so that you can throw a frisbee in front of someone. Because it doesn't drop in your lap like it would in basketball or Aussie rules. It's out in front, and you'll see the general cutting pattern is that players will run towards the person with the frisbee and have to they'll be thrown out nice and soft and they chase it down, or it'll be thrown away from them and there's a big chase. Also, a benefit of it being flat is you can catch it one hand, which means you get quite impressive dives for the frisbee at times, which
absolutely
you only really see the goalkeepers do in other sports. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very easy to access. It's very cheap. There's no referees to pay for. want I don't know if they're at uni.
You've certainly sold it to me. I love it, Fowler.
If you want cross training, this is the sport to do your cross training with, I think, as well.
That's true. It's a good off season.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to leave you boys to finish this game out because I've got to prepare for my game, which starts right after this. But thank you for joining us, Sean.
Hopefully,
when I listen back to my game later, I can hear your voice again. So stick around.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me in the commentary booth, or me joining you, Phil.
That's
and
okay,
I'll listen to your sultry tones as I go out in the field later.
Sure, no
Good
worries.
luck, Foles.
Thank you. So yeah, Ben's just leaving the commentary position at the moment to do his warm-up for the next game. So stay with us as we close this one out. I'll close this one out with Sean as well. Maybe getting your final thoughts on this game. What have you seen? What have you liked? And maybe bring it back to Peak as well.
Yeah, well, I guess certainly being here face to face, I've had small experiences with it through the community that we have at Peak, and I've definitely been tuning in live to a few of the live streams, which has been fantastic. Obviously, being a sponsor out here and knowing a lot of the guys as well, but I just don't think you can truly appreciate the athleticism, and I love the way that the Foles described it as well. Like when he talked about the glide of the frisbee, I can.
You just saw it there as you're speaking.
I love the passion that they have out here, and as you said, you can tell everybody here is doing it for the love, the community, for all the right reasons, which is really. I guess probably something that you don't see in many other sports. So I think it's fantastic, mate, and I'd highly recommend it to anybody who wants to come out first of all and give it a watch, but also get involved and give it a try.
Yeah, as we see, little injury by Ty, has to walk off. He's done something to his hand at the moment. He's not happy about that. Something's hit him somewhere, and he's just sitting down on the sideline. So something a bit more serious than the average bruise, I suspect. but he's walking. He's in a little bit of pain, but not too much. As we see a nice little cheeky scuba over the top there to Edgeworth. Nice try by Cantless, tries to get back on his feet. Bit of grass slipping out from underneath him. Back to Edgeworth. Now the guy with the disc in his hand has actually been in a car accident recently, so it's actually amazing to see him on the field at the moment. He had quite a few broken ribs, but he's back out there playing.
Yeah, Gav. On it, wheels. Good wheels. Keep working around, let's go.
And so how can people at home contact you?
Yeah, so essentially, being a small community gym and
We see a grab over the top by Red, keep the disc alive.
family owned and run. I respond and receive all of the social media contact. So PEAQ on social media, either on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can email us at info@peak.com.au as well. So reach out. We're based in Port Adelaide, but you have a number of options if geography is challenging. Certainly we do some remote programming as well, so people are looking for some advice and some structure around their programming to go and do at home, or a gym down south, for example, if travel is too far. We do team sessions as well, so if you want to bring your team in and
I think he towed the line to keep that one alive. So Titans 15 win the match, I believe. Oh no, I've got something wrong in my head. They're walking back to each other.
14-10?
Was it 14? It's a nice toe of the line there by Tran. Sorry, 14-10. So game to 15. We've 5 minutes into overtime at the moment. So peak.com.au, that's peak with a Q.
Yes, that's it, absolutely.
YouTube, podcasts, anything like that out there?
Good question. I probably should do a bit more of that. I guess I'll probably spend a little bit more time coaching than I do, behind the mic or behind the camera. But just probably more the socials at the moment. But certainly something to work towards in the future for sure.
Nice. I'm happy to join in that conversation if you want someone else to ask you the hard questions.
I would love to. That sounds fantastic. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for the opportunity to come out tonight. It's been a pleasure. It's a great atmosphere, and looking forward to seeing some more great frisbee as well.
Look, the boys out here have just really rapped about the sponsorship that you've given us. As you can see, Peak written on all the jerseys. Double Happiness also lending a hand in that department as well.
My pleasure.
But we're really happy.
We can claim the winner no matter what happens.
Exactly. You're going to be top of the ladder. That's for sure.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much.
No worries. I've got a challenge for you, Sean.
What's that?
You want to commentate this point?
All right. This could be
just from what you see. From what you see. Describe it as you see it. That's all you need to do.
All right. So this is what I would probably describe, as the kickoff. It was a start, number 9. Nice fluoro hat. I like the addition to that.
Yeah.
Is that team spec or is that just
I think
a bit
it's
of
personal taste.
Absolutely. I like that. Looking for an option here. Bit of work. Nice little 45 cuts. Turnover there. Red's pressure. Tight. Didn't really give Blues an inch to work with there. Now we set ourselves up. Number 5. Looks to be... Is that a quarterback, man? Number 5, our quarterback?
We'll call them handlers.
We'll call it our handler. Here we go. So our handler, the quarterback, he's going to set his players. I can see they've been really good with their set plays all night, Red. So I'm expecting something to open up pretty soon. They're spreading from that vertical stack, working through it. Something's going to open up soon. I can feel it. They're patient. Oh! And what a finish.
Can you ask for a better way to finish?
That was a wonderful finish.
We call that a layout. Nice
Fantastic.
grab. Going going Superman, whatever you want to call it. But I think, I don't know if my job's safe or not, or whether you've got a new job coming shortly. But thank you for commentating that last one. That does win the game for Titans or Red. We really enjoyed this conversation. Maybe next season we can have you back and have another chat.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If there's any more we can do to support the sport, please reach out to us. If anybody's out there or anybody here has any ideas, we're always open to anything. This all started as Foles reaching out to us and saying, I've got this crazy idea, we're going to start up a new league, and we're all for it, mate. We just want to, our motto is closing the gap between local and elite. So, trying to create opportunities for local sporting athletes and grassroots athletes to feel like elite sportsmen and to experience those principles and we just love sport in all capacities. So
well, that's great to hear.
Excited.
Great to hear, Sean. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Peak.com.au. That's Peak with a Q. Look it up online. You don't need to be in Adelaide to hire their services or use their services. They can do that via distance as well. Peak.com.au. My name's Phil Shields. Titans have won this game. It's been a pleasure having you, Sean.
My pleasure. The pleasure was on mine, mate.
Okay,
Thank
until
you.
next time, mate. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thank
Cheers.
you.